I don't know if rankings is your thing, Zach, but you look online, pick your sport, it doesn't matter, and people love the top 10 this and the ranking this and ranking that. And doing what I do, hey, I've fallen in line to a certain extent, ranking, the coaches in the Big Ten or whatever the case might be. There was a list released in the last couple of weeks of the AP's all-time rankings and the coaches poll all-time rankings. So we're going back to 1936 for the AP. We're going back to 1950 for the coaches poll. And I didn't look into their system, but what I think it is basically they just assign a point total to where you finish that season. If you're number one, you get 25 points. You're number two, you get 24 points on down the line. You finish number 25, you get 1 point. And then they just, boom, there are your all-time rankings of the greatest college football programs. And it's pretty much what you would expect it to be. Ohio State and Oklahoma were tied for number one in the coaches poll. Alabama was third. Is all the blue bloods were at the top. This is going back 80 years. So I'm trying to put together a little system that's not going to drive me crazy and make me, work on a project for 3 months. So what would you take into consideration in ranking programs all time?
I think the only way that I would do it is to base it on actual analytics, because I have a problem with rankings, right? When they're just people voting, because no different than the playoff committee. I have I need to see your resume. Like, are you qualified to tell me who the top 25 teams are in the country? Because if you're not, then the whole thing is completely biased and ruined. So the only way I think I could do it is to go through, total offensive rate rankings, rushing average per rush, completion percentages, third down conversions, and create an analytic model where you can really evaluate how successful was a team, right? Because outside of that, you're allowing human error. And if there was some expert committee that you just knew everyone voting were absolute experts in this field and could vote on it, unbiased, it would be amazing. And it would be really easy, right? You could just say, well, this expert panel that's been going on for 40 years, here's how they ranked them. They're experts, so that's what we go off of. But that's just not the case when it comes to anything. You want to Heisman Trophy votes, AP poll votes, even coaches polls. I've talked about that before. I've been there. I've seen it. Coaches don't vote. You would think like, oh, it's a coaches poll, so the coaches know. One, the coaches don't watch other teams unless they're playing them. Two, they don't even vote. Their sports information directors fill it out, put it on their desk, they glance it over, sign it, and mail it in. So there's no expert committee out there voting to rank these teams right now. So I have a problem with using those as some indication of like any type of success or which teams are better.
Zach, I explain that to people all the time. The coaches don't vote. And, I'm sure some of them have a little bit more interest in it than others and may say, to the SID, here, vote. I just want to make sure that so-and-so is not higher than us, knock them down and put them up. And other than that, you do whatever you want.
Yep.
And maybe that's near the end of the season that they finally say, you know what, we don't want our rival to be, or we want to pump them up or whatever. Then the other thing that people don't understand on the writers' side, those writers are so locked in on their team, the one team that they cover. And I'll give an example of that. For 7 years, I covered the SEC, and every week I'm going to the Alabama, Mississippi State, or Ole Miss game. If you got a 3:30 game in the afternoon, you got a 2-hour drive, you got to get there an hour early. You do not see any other college football. You are basically, you got an 8 or 9 in the morning start. You're going to that game. You live that game.
Yeah.
That's the only game you live. You're going to the locker room after the game for interviews. You're going to the news conference after. By the time you truck it back, work on highlights, put together a story, it's the 11 o'clock news. You've seen no other college football.
Right.
And that's what you've worked on. You don't know what's going on. You can't evaluate these other teams.
No. And I think it's kind of what the industry has done is they try to kill two birds with one stone, right? They're trying to get these people in sports media to cover the teams and give you those in-person experiences and cover the deep analytics and the behind the scenes stuff for Alabama or the SEC. And then in turn, ask that same person to be experts on a national landscape. And it's not possible. And that's kind of the luxury that I have. I don't go anywhere. I don't go to any games. And all I do is watch football for, 6 days out of 7. And the one day I don't actually study it, I just watch it and enjoy it on Saturdays, right? The other days I actually will pull up games and study it. And I think if they had a niche for people to do that, right? Just analyze teams on a national landscape, you'd have a much better rating system, because it's not even incompetence by sports media personnel. It's just, that's not possible. What you just described is not possible, to do that every Saturday and then also be an expert at what, maybe the 40 teams that are relevant. You can't do it. It's not even possible.
Yeah, I'm not going to begin to say that I watch these games with the expertise that you do, but I love what I'm doing now because, yeah, I don't have that grind of, man, being able just to have to be tunnel focused. And people say it to me every college football season. They're like, why don't you go to this game, or why don't you travel?
Yeah.
We'll have you can tailgate and da, 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 da. And I'm like, no, I kick back and I watch like 15 different games because I'm trying to keep up with everything. I can't lock myself in on the Florida State Miami game and make that my entire weekend.
No, you can't. And I mean, I run into it too. We do these every home, not every home game, but select home games for Ohio State. Braxton Miller and I do a big fundraiser tailgate. We raised $8,000 this past football season, and on those days, the whole time, all I'm thinking about is like, man, I'm gonna have so much extra work to do because I'm not watching football right now. But it's obviously for a good cause, so we do it. But I don't know how you did it, and I don't know how anyone does it now.